Hey guys, first stage of tweaks to the Harbour Freight Bandsaw. We'll get rid of these Mickey Mouse wheels and try and extend the axle axis out a little bit away from the foot and make the track a little bit wider. So what we get is basic materials, just what we've got, usual thing. Try and manage with what I've got, and only two components really. This is a piece of formed angle, which is 1.5 by 2, I suppose. No, I think it's 2.5 by 1.5. And then I've dug out a length of, I was going to say 3/4, it's actually 20 mil. Almost the same, and the idea will be, trying to find my marks on here, the idea will be to use these cheapy wheels from guess where, Harbour Freight, 1/2 inch bore, solid tyre, about 6 inches, 6.5. So we'll turn down each end to 1/2 inch, and with the wheel on board, the wheel, sorry, they're just checking here, if I remember rightly, I made a note of that, it's about 1.4. So we're going to turn these down for 2 inches to a 1/2 inch stud axle. This isn't very level, is it? Can't win. Turn each end down to a 2-inch stub axle, and we'll put a bearing washer on the inside and another bearing washer on the outside of the wheel hub, and that'll leave us about a 1/2 inch to play with, just to put a little bit of thread on the end, and use a retaining nut, slightly preferable to a split pin, which is quicker. And before we turn down, we'll put a couple of holes through, probably round about there, and they will correspond to a couple of holes in this section of the angle. Probably countersink that from the other side and make these holes tapped and secure this through with bolts straight into the round bar. And then this section here, we'll work out where to put some holes and where to put it on the hacksaw foot, so that when it's all in place, the wheels are just touching the ground, and then with a slight tip at the other end, we'll have a very nice, easy transportation mode. And this will put the axis of the axle about 2 inches away from the foot, and we've got extra width as well, so the stability laterally is going to be better, and it's going to wheel more easily without trying to tip over. So that's the starting point. I won't bore you with the whole thing, but we're just going to get started on the cutting down. We've got to take just over 120 off each side to get down to what we want. Yeah, well, that's an old tool. There's a nice bit of chatter on there, which wasn't really surprising. Let's put another tool in, do something a bit better on that. I meant to show this earlier when I was showing the material. Very straightforward. That's the end of the bar, and then turn down to 1/2 inch. Spacer washer, a bit of thread for a nut. That basically is it. So anyway, let's just carry on. I've just got this set up. I've changed tool. I was using a very poor tool just now. So we'll carry on with the cut, get this down to size. I'm just rough cutting at the moment. I didn't stop that quite quick enough. Anyway, nothing's very critical on this, not really. So we'll get a bit more done and come back to it in a minute. Finish isn't super critical. So we've got 16th thou to go. So we'll go 50. We'll take the 15 and see where we are. So I'll come in 7.5, and again I think we'll hand feed this, and then we'll get the shoulder down at the back there. Might as well put a thread on it too while I'm at it. Probably heard that, it's getting some chatter. You can probably see it. Probably not quite the right tool, and no centre giving it extra support. Excuse me. Anyway, I'm not going to worry about it. It's only a case of taking the wheel and it fits. So I'm just going to put a shoulder on this. Okay, it's got my shoulder on that, so make sure I just unlock things here, and then somewhere I want a little bit of lead in for threading, so we'll get that done and put a thread on it, and then we'll turn it around, see if we can do the other end a bit cleaner. Never mind. Right, let's try the wheel on my chatter-ridden stub axle. Just so you can't see that too close, but it's functional. I really must use some better tools sometime. And now that leaves me just that bit of float for a couple of washers, and that'll tighten up anyway, so I think that'll do quite well, and we'll turn it round and get the other end done, hopefully without any chatter. Well, we got this end done without any chatter. As I said before, that other end's embarrassing, but anyway, we're just going to get this shoulder done here, then we can put a thread on this end. Right, actually, according to my mark, I can go a little bit further on that. Just wind on a little bit more on the saddle stop. Not that it's critical. Look at that. Alright, that's into my mark, that'll work. So let's just get the thread done. Just getting this die started. We've got a couple of turns maybe, so hopefully we'll stay square. This is not the best of dies actually. I'm going to lock, I can't get my handle in because of the length of the piece, so I'm going to lock it down on the back gear. In fact, I won't bore you with much more of this because it's it's awfully tedious. And this is not a very good die. It's not got a very good cut on it. Unfortunately, it's the only ½ inch I've got where I've got some nuts on hand. So it's an old British thread. It's the old BSF. It's actually a nice thread, but just takes a rather lot of work to get it cut. Anyway, I'll get that finished off, and then we can take that piece out of the lathe. Right, it's time to finish for this session, so we'll come back to this soon. So anyway, there we are, there's the main axle, and this, as I said before, we'll drill through, we'll cross drill here rather than blind holes, tap those and put a countersink bolt in from underneath, and then fix this to the foot of the machine. Right, back soon. Well, the next step here is I'm going to cross drill the axle bar. So I've got my cross drilling jig, the homemade one, which I described quite a long time ago in an early video. So I've got this set up. I had it marked up and centre popped, and I've got the first one centered. Got a 5mm drill because I'm going to tap it 6x1 metric because I happen to have some countersunks. So we'll make a start on that. Just a little bit of oil. I won't bore you with more of that. I'll finish that one and then we'll set up and do the other side. I'll also give a small touch of a 6mm just to give me a tap starting easement. Just take a 6 and just tickle it in the front end. If I can see what I'm doing here. Getting in the way of the camera there. That's all we want, just I find it gives you a much easier start on the tap when I come to it. So we'll turn round and get the other side done. Right, we turned it over and got it on center. Incidentally, I didn't mention, but I used a little turn piece of round cut to a taper to give me a point when I'm trying to get the set up in here. I'll finish that off in a minute. And I'll just run the 6 into this one. Okay, that'll work. Next thing is to get these holes tapped, and then we can mark up from those onto the angle and take the next step. Well, I'm just finishing some tapping. We've got this piece of angle prepared, generous countersinks at the bottom, and we'll got to get a couple of holes in the top at some point. So I just finished this second hole here for the 6mm with this cheapy little tap wrench. Most of my metric taps at the moment are cheap ones, but they do the job. Just have to be a bit patient. Okay, still quite hot in here actually. Right, let's clean that up. And moment of truth in a minute. Let me just get the my mini table back on. Right, we'll get these get these screws in. I'll tell you one thing that was very tricky, probably because I did it the wrong way round, but getting marked from the holes on the round bar onto the angle was very, very tricky. Let's just do it this way around. Oops. I've just turned my old t-shirt inside out. It looks slightly cleaner. So that's where we're at the moment. The alignment's pretty reasonable, which again is not hypercritical. Just a quick look at the first assembly, because I've got to offer this up to the leg of the bandsaw. The wheels are pretty free spinning. I've taken the nuts up. It's just a bit of slop because the bores are not actually that critical. So we'll move on from there to actually working out where the holes are going to go on this rear. Well, I didn't show much in the way of intermediate stages because there's nothing very exciting. Put a couple of holes in the angle, and the bolts that I had handy were 5/16, so we've used those. Unfortunately this side, which is a bit annoying, I couldn't really help it, didn't even think about it. People who have put these things together know that one side of the leg is hinged, and of course there's a hinge at the back there. No big deal, we got through alright, and the function is pretty much as I would like. If I lift up the back and get the feet clear, it's pretty okay. So both of these wheels, I think this floor isn't very even. That one's touching and that one's just touching. Very close, the floor's very uneven. So there you go, that's the end of this little tweak on the bandsaw. I might tidy this up, I've ground the edges. This angle was, I think I said earlier, it's formed angle, and the edges show the effects of brake press. It's obviously made for some purpose, but it does the job. I could have put the axle underneath, which occurred to me as well. The reason I didn't was really because this was going to come up even higher. I've trimmed these edges very roughly, and I didn't want the angle any higher. But what it does do is it brings the axle axis is a little bit further forward than the old one, and the main benefit is the extra stability on width. So I know other people have done mods on this, but this was my method using what I had available. So thanks for watching.